And it begins. A gear change on my 2014 Mustang. It's got 315s in it right now. I'm gonna be putting 456s in. And this is my first time ever doing this, so you probably shouldn't be watching this if you want to learn how, because I watched Eric the Car Guy, so maybe you should do the same. So the first thing I got to do though is take off that and the panhard bar, the sway bar, and drop this down to where I can actually get things in and out. Yeah, this goes in like this, the sticker down on this one. I took the shock loose and the rear end just fell, and it's kind of being held up by this brake line right now. So I need to get the jack in there and shore that up. Alright, I took the calipers off. Should have done that to begin with. So learn from me. This is a sensor. I think it was LMR video or one of those places said you got to take this out. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out, because I guess if you try to remove the axle with this in, it'll break. It wasn't hard to get off, just a 10mm. I used an open end because I couldn't find any other 10mm. Of course. I'll take that one off too. Alright, I got the drive shaft unbolted, and it's all the way down, so it's like closer to the transmission, so I got to jack the rear end up to get the drive shaft away from the rear end. This is where I should have tied up the drive shaft. I just stuck a 2x4 up on the exhaust and pushed it up above the axle. Watch it, it lands on the axle when I drop it down. See, tie your axle up out of the way. Okay, I'm only 1, 2, 3 bolts away from taking this whole rear end out. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'll just take 3 more bolts out, slide this out from under the car. Well, maybe I should drain the oil first while it's in a decent position. Then take those 3 bolts out, slide it out from underneath the car, and put it on jack stands. Alright, got it busted loose and drained. Forgot to record it. I'll let that sit and drip for a while before I start doing any more. This is where I get my drive shaft out of the way. in between sizes and stripped, and it's, I don't know, a messed up bolt for a stock bolt. It was like that, brand new. I moved over to press the record button and the rear end fell. It was, that's why it's off camera. Well, that was dangerous, I guess. It was close. Okay. Says 315 right there. So these were 315 gears. $315. There's the arrows. They look like A's. So, according to some videos I watched, I punched here twice, 2 punches here, 1 punch here, and 1 punch here. That way I know what the top is. Seems to me I could just do 1 punch and 1 punch, but the 2 would say, well, this side goes over here for sure, even though this arrow points in. So you really just need to mark the top. And then you can put these back on exactly the way they came off. Alright, I think the first thing I need to do is take the pin out. Had a little bit of Loctite on it. See it now as it's coming out. You could feel it. It was coming out. This part looks so easy in all the other videos where I go to try to take these clips out, and everybody just takes like a second to do it and shows it being pulled off with a magnet so easy. But there's O-rings on that shaft, and it makes that clip really stick in there, and my magnet wasn't strong enough, so I had to wind up using a screwdriver and pushing it down through the bottom. One even fell in the bottom because that O-ring makes it hold so tightly. On this shaft, making this want to stay on there. The older ones don't have that O-ring on there that I noticed anyway. Take these off, dang it. I'll take these brackets off. I should have done that when it was on the car. It would have been easier. Learn from me. This spring is under a lot of tension, and it really came out hard for me. I don't know if, I'm pretty sure that's normal. And that's another thing I haven't seen in any videos, is anybody struggling to get that spring out. Right there at the end, though, I figured out the way to do it. I just pulled out the little planetary gears. Those have shims behind them, so be careful not to get them mixed up. Leave those on one shim. The shim goes on the gear. You don't want to accidentally drop both of them in the hole. And then the clutch pack came out on the passenger side there. And you want to make sure those stay shimmed properly on both sides, the way they came out. Backlash on this stock set is 10, right on 10. This depends on how hard I push. If I push hard, it's 11. Well, I must have turned it a little. So I think it's 10. Yeah, it's 10. Okay, so it's 10. I'll write that down just for my records. Alright, so the next thing to do is take these bearing caps off and get a straight edge. Clean these off here, get a straight edge across here, and use my calipers to measure how deep that is, so I can record that. And it's going to help me find the center of this shaft area here, where that's the checking distance. Center of these shafts are. Okay. And that's going to help me find the pinion depth. It's very hard to get accurate measurements this way. You have to be very careful with the calipers, and it's hard to get repeatable measurements. So this is a good way to do it if you don't have any other way to find the pinion depth. I'm cleaning this edge not only to make the gasket seal better later, but you need a nice clean surface to measure from. Okay. Now with the arrows and the punch marks, I should be able to put these back on exactly how they came off, even if I get them mixed up. I'm putting all these parts in baggies and labeling them exactly where they came from and what side and all that. I do this with the shims as well. I don't have any natural gas out here. I'm getting a smell of natural gas, and I'm not sure if it's coming from the rear end or somebody had a gas leak that day. That's a strong smell. Alright, now I need to find a straight edge. Guess that's probably pretty straight. Alright. I trust that. When doing this measurement this way, when you get down to touch the race, you have to make sure at the very top. So you have to slide it back and forth and watch it very carefully and keep it very straight until it's just the very top of the race to get a correct measurement. I could have flipped it over and done it that way too, but I felt more comfortable like this. 2.018. 2.010. 2.014. Ah. 2.0145. It's the closest I could get. It looked the most accurate. .020. 2.020. 2.017. We'll go with 2.016. Just to get it in the middle. Alright. That's the surface to the bearing. Now I can take this out. This. We don't want that dropping on our fingers, do we? Careful. Stick your finger in there. Alright. I don't think these are going to matter too much. But, well, no, I'm probably reusing those. So, these need to be marked. Drivers. Okay. Now the next important thing here is marks on the pinion. BR3AA FO. Is that a W or an M? TC. That doesn't really give me anything that I need. I don't think. Maybe when I get it apart. But I'm gonna now take another measurement or two. Now I'm gonna measure from this surface to the very bottom of this, and that'll help me figure out what the center is. When taking this measurement, it's the same struggle. You got to make sure you're all the way at the furthest bottom part of that race support. You have to make sure that you're straight and level and right at the bottom, and the rod isn't bowing. It's kind of hard to do. Okay, so surface to race is 2.015 and 2.017, so I average it to 2.016. The surface to the lower race surface is 5.091. So from this surface to the top of the race, and from this surface to the bottom of the race. Okay. The race actually measures 3.60. So when you take these measurements that I got, I'm pretty close, but the math is 3.075. So it's just a little bit off, but it's close. Well, you take that and divide it by 2. And then you take that number and you add it to the top measurement, the 2.016, which is the top of the race. Okay, that means that from the top surface, from the center, from the top surface is 3.5535. That's the center of the tubes from the surface. This one I'm going to measure from this to this. Zero it out. Zero. This is maxing this out. There's very little space left to measure. I ended up later using a shim because it was so deep that my measuring tool would not accurately measure that distance. So I used a small shim and it did some more math. Okay, so surface to the pin is 6.0965. That's from the very top to the pin. From the very top to the center is 355.35. Okay, so I have to take this number minus this number, and that should be this pinion depth, which would be 2.5430. I'm just laying this in here to show you basically that I'm going to be using this tool later, and that's how it sits in there. It's not time to use this tool yet. I was just playing with it at this time. We'll get back to that later when I actually do need to use it. On that other side of that, though, there's a plastic piece that sticks out so that you can put it in the center of the pinion, and you might have to shave that down to get it to sit flush on the pinion. That's what I learned when I was playing with it, and read the instructions thoroughly because every bit of them counts. Alright, I've gotten all the data I can get, all the measurements that I can think of. Now it's time to remove the pinion and see if there's any other markings on it that would indicate a plus or a minus on the pinion. The new pinion has the markings on it. Right there. That says +0 on it, and it also gives a checking depth on there. I'm not sure what the other number means. Okay, it's probably backwards. But so that, if I can't find any numbers on this, one of my friends said that means it probably doesn't need anything just put the old shim in. So now I'm going to flip it over and take it apart. Sorry you missed that. You just take a punch and you loosen the nut and you don't take it off. Just leave it like that. Right? Take a punch. You just tap it down. It was real easy. It was so easy. I forgot to record it. Okay. There it is. The camera sees this marking right away, but I don't. It's facing away from me, and I wish I would have seen it sooner, because I probably wouldn't have rubbed so hard when I was wiping the oil off. But it did still have markings that I could try to make out, but I never could figure out if it was a 2 or a 3. There's the crush sleeve. I saw in a video, somebody said that the measurement might be on this back side, but I'm not seeing anything. Oh, here. Is that a 3? Plus. Oh man. I almost wiped it off all the way off. I gotta get it in the right light. Jesus. I gotta get it in the right light. It looks like a 2. Looks like a plus. Ooh, that looks like a 4. But it's a plus, I think. Oh gosh, it clearly looks like a 4. What's that? A minus. Jeez. They were... And there's something there. Now I don't know what to do. That looks like a 4 or a plus. It's probably a sloppy plus. My goodness. Yeah, it does wipe off. Oh crap. Well, I think that's a plus 2, even though it looks like a 4-2. I think it's a plus 2. But can't be certain. This is the bearing, and this is like the oil slinger. And this is the seal. I guess while it's on this side, I can hammer that brace out. Ohio, USA, STD 4183. There's a burr in there I gotta probably get out. I messed up here and I tried to punch that seal out from the back side, and I didn't realize that I was hitting the oil slinger, and I kind of bent it up a little bit. See it there dropping out? You don't want to do that. You want to find a different way to get that seal out. This is where I realized what I did and started to try to hammer it straight. I later got it on a vise with a flat surface and got it better. Bent up my oil slinger a little bit. Well, this probably isn't the same bearing as the ones I bought. Alright, time to take the ring gear off. That says -8 or something on it. 8 thousandths maybe. Maybe that's what they thought it was, or what it was when they put it together. 8 minus, and that says 661. I put it on the floor because whenever you're hitting something, you want it to be on a solid surface, and you don't have to hit it nearly as hard because it's not bouncing. So that's why I transferred it to the floor and put it on a piece of wood. I'm tapping lightly and it's moving, and I just went around, and wherever it was spaced out the least, that's where I tapped it until it came off. I'm showing this in real time just because I thought maybe people that are about to do it would be interested. I got to the end of the bolts where they weren't long enough to be tapping on them anymore. I didn't want to mess up the threads, and it still hadn't come off of the ledge that it's on for the interference fit. So that's when I just removed the bolts and tap on the gear now. Okay, I'll probably go ahead and put the ring gear in the oven. Well, I might want to clean it up first. Put the ring gear in the oven and heat it up so it'll go on this surface a little bit easier. And put that on. Probably should clean this surface up before I do that. Alright, I got it in the oven. I'll keep track of the temperature of it. When it gets up to 300 or 400 degrees, I'll put it on there. It should slip right on at that temperature. And I'm going to use the old bolts to suck it up, and then when it cools off, I'll take the old bolts out and put in the new bolts. Okay, I got the temperature at 400. I'm going to leave that in there, I don't know, probably less than an hour. I got a temp gun. I'll see what it gets to temperature, maybe 350, 400, something like that, and probably less. And then put it on there, and it's an interference fit right here at the very last, like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. So that ought to be enough. And then I'll use the old bolts to torque it down, or not torque it down, but suck it up. Then I'll let it cool, take the old bolts off, and put the new bolts on. Alright, this was in the freezer for probably 20 minutes. And the gear's in this oven, and it's been about 350 for, I don't know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So here we go. Pop right on. Alright, that went really good. This is a web page that I found, and you can pause this anytime and read it. Probably zoom in. This shows how to read your pinion to adjust the first depth. So my pinion on the new one says +0, but the old one, when I was taking it apart, I found that it said +2. And there's a chart down here. See, this is for the preload, I think. What is this? Oh, it's backlash. You could, and then anyway, there's a chart at the bottom of this somewhere. New pinion and old pinion. Okay. So my pinion is, the new one is 0, and the old one, no, the old one is +2 and the new one is 0. So I have to add 002. I have to add 2 thousandths. So that's how you start, based on the markings that are on the pinions. As I scroll through this, pause, especially at number 124, where it starts to talk about how the pinion is marked. This is what the markings that I've been looking at on my pinion mean. Right there it is. And it says basically that I have a 33 or a 32, whichever number that is, thousandths shim under there. That's how Ford does it. Pretty good information there if you're looking at doing this. $142 is interesting. I'm gonna try that when I get to it and see how it works. I haven't even done that yet, but I haven't seen that in any videos. Then this chart is interesting also. Notice it says moving the pinion shim most of the time.
Well, that went pretty well. You need to have some gloves, get it off of there before it cools down and locks on there. The shims are still there. only one shim, looks like. Okay, the shim is 27. No, now it's reading 28. 27.5. 27. 27.5. 27. So it's 27. Well, Ford says, or when I looked it up on their website, they start at 30, and then whatever this crayon marking is, minus or plus, that's what the shim is. But this plus 2 or 3 would say that it's 32 or 33, and this is not. So that makes me question everything. So now I don't know what to do for sure. I wonder if that's too much. And it gets them moving. Alright, I got the bearing grinded out. Slips right on there. Slips right off. Time to start testing. There. Yep, we just drove home, almost. That's it. Hear the sound change? Alright, cool. Okay. Now I just need to flip it over and put the other brace in. Wait. Ooh. I don't think that's where you want to use that. You want me to turn it around? You're going to end up, if you didn't already, I don't think that's the right taper on them to do it that way. You need to, this side's way high. You just got to get a brass rod. You're going to be doing this. Yeah. 'Cause you're still high. That looks a little better, don't it? It's a little high there now. drop it. That's it.
Crocus cloth?
A what?
Crocus cloth. Just kind of wipe it out a little bit.
All I got is this stuff
Oh, that's not.
in my shirt. Alright, I'm pretty sure that that's the sound of seated. So, don't need a crush sleeve. I think I do need to put this on though, in order to use the nut, so.
It's not even the same spline, is it?
It doesn't seem to be, which would be really disappointing since I'm this far in the process.
I think you're good.
That means I wasted a bunch of money. We're all the way around for sure. Blow it off first. You know, on videos I've watched, they have to start the nut and screw this on pretty hard.
Yeah, it should be a pretty much right fit.
So probably have to get it started and force it on there and then pop it off with a punch. So where's my old nut? What do we do with that? Oh. I'm not comfortable with that. We'll have to tap it on there with a piece of wood or something, because that's not very many threads. Got it? Should be able to tap it on there and then, what is that? You know, when I took it apart, it didn't drive off very hard, so. Alright. Hopefully we only have to do this a couple times. Well.
Okay, don't you have a sleeve that you could put on there? And just guesstimate how deep this is. All you're doing is you're trying to get it tight on the bearings.
Right. Well, I was wondering if you could come over here with a punch and tap it down. That's pretty good.
All you need is something that's from here to here so you can put some pressure on it, you know?
Oh, instead of using that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Well, let's look for something.
It's not quite big enough though, is it?
No, but we're almost there. Alright, so that's the old race from the pinion. This is a old top bearing. Okay. Now just tighten that down a little bit. I don't know how much end plate. Well, without the crush sleeve, I'm not sure that we could even set the pressure anyway. But it does pull them closer together. Okay, I got no movement. And that's no pressure at all. Alright, so that's in, and it has no up and down movement. I tightened it a little bit at a time until it had no movement. There's no crush sleeve, so I'm not going to worry about the torque for the 25 inch-pounds or whatever it is. Now we need to turn it over. Now, I got my depth tool somewhere here. This. And I'm to put this like that. The camera closer. Like that. I'm gonna turn on the lights. And it's supposed to be square with that on that ledge and this, and then flat here. Oh my cow. .382. Alright, the marking on the end of the tool is 3.007 minus 0.382. That's 2.625. And the pinion says 2.629. So I need to shim it. Alright, so 6.629. So I need 0.004, that's 4 thousandths of a shim I need to add. Right? Yeah. Alright, we got a 15 there, a 10, a 20, and 2 12s. And we got to make, what was it, 32? 31. But we only can make either 30 or 32. And since we haven't got the preload set, we're going to favor it at 32 and see what happens, because it was kind of loose on there. I wasn't wiggling at all, but it was kind of loose. So we're going to go with 20, a 10, or a 20 and a 12 and make a 32, and then see what the paint looks like. Oh, I need to punch it out. I guess I'm going to go with 0.385. Alright, we decided we went the wrong way, so now we're going to try a 10 and a 12 and see where that gets us. Okay, I got it in. Unfortunately, it was off camera. I needed 4 hands actually to get this in and get this started, and then I just used this and I use this hammer and I tap lightly, and it did go in, and there's absolutely no left and right play. There's plenty of preload on this. These are the stock shims with the stock bearings. So I guess there's probably really no reason to change those shims. And I got a little play there. So I'm supposed to put the bearing caps on and then run a gear check. So I'm going to do that. Alright, that's about 8, I think. But that's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I just did that because I was curious. I gotta paint it now and see what the pinion depth is looking like for center. And if that's good, then I can worry about shimming it and preloading it on the carrier to get the backlash right. It's pretty close, so I'm really hoping that I can reuse the stock shims and be good. That'd be pretty cool. And so now I got to take this apart, take the pinion out. No, I got to paint it. Got to paint it first, and then if it's good, take it apart, take the pinion out, and mess with the crush sleeve stuff. Alright, I got the paint on there. I'm gonna run it through for the first time. Seems to me that that's centered pretty good. I should run it through again just to see if it marks it clearer. And it's a little on the low side for that side. Okay, I ran it around one more time, and I believe this is the drive side, and I think that's the important part. That's centered. That's centered pretty darn well, if you ask me. And the Nico side is a little low, but it's still not on the edge. That one seems to be. And then these where the markings trail. Markings are trailing in the center and trailing down low, but that's not any worse than the white marks that it came with. In fact, it seems to be tracking right into the white marks it came with. So I'm going to call this a success, and I'm going to pull this apart and work on the crush sleeve eliminator and get this thing put back together. I guess before I stop, I can work on the backlash, but the pinion, in my opinion, is done, and I have to think about whether I want to put the pinion in completely and then do the backlash, or just wait and get it all right before I do that. Okay, it's a 7. I can bounce it back to 0 and back to show you, but I don't have two hands and the tripod doesn't set up very well for that. But it does bounce back to 0 and it goes to 7, so I got to figure out if, I think it's supposed to be an 8, so I might have to mess with the shims. Alright, I just looked it up and the specs say 6 to 8 and I'm at 7. I'm right in the middle. This couldn't be going any better, I swear it couldn't. Now I just got to get this thing apart and take the pinion back out and get the crush sleeve eliminator set up. So, do I want to freeze the shims with the pinion? Heat up the bearing? I don't know. Will that mess up the shims when they go to expand? When they warm up? Maybe I should just wait and press it on. I mean, it's a good idea and everything, but I should probably just wait and press it on. I'm just playing with the shim, the crush sleeve eliminator shim kit. I'm gonna do that again later, but I did it, so I figured I'd just throw it in this video here. Found it, the information I need. 10, 11, and 12 are what I was looking for. So you can read through that if you want. 15 says 80-90. I'm going to be using 85-140 for the oil. And this is a PFD you can find online. This one is interesting also. The illustration C, correct load pattern. Mine looks very similar to that. So that's good. It's got torque specifications too. All right, that feels like it's down. Now this is stuck on there, so I got to pull it off. I don't know if this is big enough. Here I'm setting up the eliminator for the crush sleeve. That's it right there. I'm trying to figure out what to start with. I struggled through this, but I did finally get it. I'm checking to see if the pins are the same, so I can see if I am starting approximately at the same depth. So I don't really got any good advice for that. There's other videos out that'll talk about that. Here I'm putting it together. I probably do it a few times. That plate right there you can get online. It'll help you torque the nut. So I'm putting it together and then I'm checking the rotational torque to see if it's gonna work. And I did this a lot more times than I wanted to. I figured out that there's no stacking the shims with this kit. It starts at, the biggest is 20 and goes down to like 10. I think there's a 10, a 12, a 13, a 15, and a 20. And I winded up using the 20 when I was using this. I think it was a 16 actually.
using the 16, it popped, and I think something seated further, whether that was bearing shim or a bearing race or the bearing on the pinion, I don't know, but it moved, and I had to put a 20 in to make it work. Then I ended up torquing it at 175.
I need some sealant for that. Well, I loosened it up a little bit, and it's got preload, so I'm not sure if I should just leave it, because it's at 2.8 with that proper. I torqued it like I would with a crush sleeve until it got the proper preload. I'm gonna have to look into it and see. All right, I put the 20 back in because that pop I heard, that wasn't the wrench. I'm pretty sure that was the bearing seating further onto the shaft. The one that I pressed on, I might not have pressed it completely on by accident, and something, or one of my races wasn't all the way seated. But whatever that pop was, it seated something, and it changed it from the 16 to the 20. So now I've ruined a nut. Good thing I bought 2 kits. And you're supposed to cut when you're doing this, you're supposed to cut this lock out down to the flats while you're testing. I used an old nut. It didn't seem to be even taking the black off. But when I used this, it did take a little bit of the black off. So I'm just going to put a new nut on it, because I'm sure this isn't the first time anyone's ever put a nut on and made a mistake, and then still use the shaft. The threads seem fine. So now I'm going to take this nut off and go get the other nut and put another nut on and call it good, because it's about 2, and that's at 150 foot-pounds, which is, it's got some preload, so it needed to be like a little bigger, more than that. But I think if I put a little more torque on it, I'll probably be able to get it. But this torque wrench is maxed out, so, and I think that's probably good. Alright, before I go putting another new nut on this, I'm going to put it together and paint it again, because what if I have to take it apart? And I don't want to feel like I can't take it apart because I've already used the last nut I had. So I'm going to flip it over and put it together. I gotta measure these and make sure they didn't get mixed up. Alright, it's a good thing I recorded that, because they were messed up. They were mixed up. Now,
All right. Looks like it's still in the middle. And it did raise up just a little bit. I want to run it again and see. Okay, this is the driver's side. Planetary gears. And clutch pack. I'm sure they're fine. Yeah, they look good. Plenty of pad left. Hook somewhere. I find my hook. One. It's the passenger side. It does look like it's been doing some slipping around the back side, but that's how it's supposed to go in there. You would think there would be another clutch right there. Makes you wonder why there's not. But I did look it up. I don't know why it wouldn't. This doesn't have any locking mechanism to lock this, so this just sits there and spins. It doesn't make sense. And there's no clutches on in here, so that being said, I'm gonna stop the video here and make sure I'm right, because I know that I do remember it, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I do remember checking it. I want to double check.
gears in. I might actually need help, but I'm gonna try it because this turns hard now, and I think you got to turn it to get these in correctly. So I'm gonna set that in there like that. If I remember right, these turned out. And I gotta set this one in there. My finger out of the way. Okay. Ooh, that's close. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Bam. on and add fluid. Drive shaft up with the mark I made. And since this is an aftermarket drive shaft, I gotta put the square nuts in right here. See how there's not, well, I guess you can't. See how there's not room for the bolt, so I have to do it while I can pivot it. Get the one in on top. Start one. Spin it down. Ouch. The other one started. With this aftermarket drive shaft, it's better to get them all in while they're loose because you have to have just a little bit more room than you need to get them started, so it's good to have it backed away so you can drop the bolts in a little deeper. Got the springs in already. They were easy, they just popped right in. Alright, panhard bar is in. That was really hard. That really sucked. Now I just got to hang these two bolts for this and raise the rear end, and I got to connect the shocks. Alright, panhard bar is in, shocks are in, upper and lower control arms are in. I still need to do the brakes and the sensor, and we're going to be ready. So I got to tighten everything down too. Alright, this is the first ride with them. You can hear them. Hear it? Has a lot more give can go, but I'm not going to punch it probably until I get 1,000 miles on it.
Break-in procedure for the ring and pinion. And I've been doing this for the most part. I got about 100 miles on it. I've been checking the temperatures too. And I think that it's getting a little hot. It's 200 degrees sometimes. I went on the interstate on my third or fourth trip out, and it got up to 212 at the bearings. Not sure if it's me or not. Maybe I did something wrong. It's possible. And I probably should take it apart and look at it and see what I maybe did wrong. I didn't really think I did anything wrong though, so I've been kind of wanting to give it some time to break in. It's not real loud. I mean, you can hear it, and it does have a whine to it, but it doesn't really get louder when you go on the interstate. It doesn't. It's just there all the time, kind of. Really, it gets better under load. If I give it gas, it goes away, and when I let off the gas, and when I'm just kind of cruising, it has a whine. So I'm gonna just keep on doing this break-in until I get to 500 miles and see if that helps. And then I might make another video if I take it apart again. But like I said, this was not a how-to video. I'm not a professional. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just playing in my garage, trying to have a little fun and learn things. So good luck if you try to do this. It's not easy. Even Eric, the car guy, struggled with this. And I got a feeling that using better tools would help. If you have any advice or tips and tricks and about anything that I may not have done right or that I missed, yeah, feel free to put those in the comments down below. I sure could use the help, that's for sure. Yeah, it'd be great. And if this video helped you in any way, go ahead and put a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Here's another link that I found helpful, and it says that I haven't reached to temperatures that are too hot yet. Where is it? What is too hot? 250 to 275 is normal. And once the break-in is done, 170 to 220, and sometimes in certain conditions 200 to 250. So as long as I stay under that, I should be okay. And then this chart is interesting. If I'm going to be running at 200 degree temperatures, I better be changing the oil often. This is a pretty good read. So probably should read that if you're planning on doing this, because the break-in procedure is pretty important.